Hey actor friends, it's Michael Kostroff and my cat Link. I have Link with me today because he's feeling extra needy, so he's just gonna hang out here. Um, I want to talk about this controversial or the controversy surrounding a video interview with a casting director in Atlanta who said that she only watches 4 seconds of each audition. I got a lot to say about this, and keep in mind, this is just going to be my take on it. There are lots of different perspectives and reactions happening, and I'm going to give you mine. So, first of all, some actors were really offended because they were laughing about it, and I think the reason the host laughed was because it was shocking, and I think that the casting director was trying to be shocking, and I think it was, I think it's worth watching more of the interview for reasons that I'll expound on in a moment. But I am going to tough love you a little bit today for your own good. For your own good, for the sake of your mental well-being, okay? My take. We're not entitled to anything, friends. We're not entitled to have them watch us, like when little kids put on a show and they're like, watch me, watch me. We're not entitled to be guaranteed that casting directors will watch our videos or watch a certain amount of our videos or any of that. We're not entitled to a career. We're not entitled to a break or a chance or anything. I'm so sorry to have to tell you that, but there isn't any entitlement just by virtue of the fact that you're an actor and you submit an audition. And I know we work hard, and that's okay. I get it. I know we work hard and we put our, research, or not research, but preparation and text analysis. Oh, great, as we should. And sometimes the tape doesn't get watched, and sometimes it gets watched for 4 seconds, and sometimes it gets watched all the way through twice. But I'm sorry to tell you, the casting director's job is not to accommodate the actor's need to be seen or make the actor feel acknowledged or respected or anything. That's not part of their job. And yes, if they don't watch your whole tape, you're missing an opportunity to really be considered for other projects by them, perhaps. And I know that stings and it doesn't serve your needs, but I want you to put yourself in a casting director's shoes for a moment, and I want you to really think about what that job requirement is, okay? If you've got a show to cast, your main priority is to find the folks that are the right choices. And I'm going to get to this later, but all of us would do that differently. I don't trust my choices. I want to watch everything all the way through, make sure I don't miss anything. That's me. I am currently casting because I'm directing a play. And I have a casting director friend who says the same thing. He says, no, I'm too obsessive. I have to see all the videos. And some casting directors do it differently. But the main job is to cast the parts. And I think if you were ever able to sit in that position and you knew right away that somebody was not right, you'd move on. No judgment against them, nothing against them. It's not an insult. It's not an offense. It's just that you're working on something. Yeah? If you are grocery shopping and you know you're going to be making a stew and you don't need Frosted Flakes, you can skip over the cereal aisle. You can do that because that's the task you're involved in. That's their job. Their job is to cast. And they have bosses. They have people who, they have to keep bringing choices to people, and sometimes they don't agree on the choices, and sometimes the choices slip out of place, and they got to cast it again or find the replacement. So that is what they are responsible for, and that's what they are. That's their obligation, and it's not to us. I want to remind you that one casting director doesn't speak for all casting directors. So before we light the torches and get out the pitchforks, casting directors don't respect us. They don't watch our tapes. This is one casting director who, honestly, I think was being flippant on purpose. But certainly that's not true of all casting directors. In fact, and again, full disclosure, I did not watch that whole video, but I watched more of it than you did probably. That very casting director reconsidered that within the interview. Thought, because the other person who's also a casting director said, oh, I watch more like at least 15 seconds. And she's like, oh, maybe I should do that, give people more of a chance or something. I don't want to misquote her, but she reconsidered during the video. And then the interviewer said something, they got into a conversation about whether or not they had become jaded. And the interviewer said something really surprising and honest. She said, we're jaded because we're supposed to be doing something else. Isn't that profound? And they talked about that a lot. And they talked about the fact that there are some casting directors who just love actors and want to watch all of their work and help them as much as they can. And they discussed that. So that's interesting that they weren't like wedged in about it. I think some of you will be surprised to hear that. But here's the thing. The job of casting belongs to the casting director, whether or not the casting director is good at that job. And they get to do it the way that they think is how they want to do it or how they think is best. Just like if a director isn't a good director, they still get to make directing decisions. They're still allowed to do that. And you could sit back all day and say, well, I would have done this and I would have done that. Okay, great. When you direct, do that. But that's not what's happening right now. So the casting director is allowed to suck at their job. They still have the job. They still get to do it their way. You cannot control how long they watch your tapes. You're not going to be sitting there with them. You can't control it. And I think it's the wrong demand to make. You have to watch me. Even if I'm completely wrong for the part or I'm not a good actor, you got to watch me. Even if you know the part is already cast. I will tell you that, I'm on the other side of the casting process right now, which is fascinating, always educational. I always say it, if you could ever sit on the other side of the table, either as a reader or a director, or help somebody cast their student film, do it. It's very, very revelatory. I have some videotapes that I am not watching because the role is probably already cast. Now, I'm still glad that I have those submissions because people fall out all the time. And I say probably because we haven't really settled. But I may never, knowing me, I'll probably watch them because I'm curious and like to see actors work. But I'm not spending a lot of time on them because I just want to get a sense of the person, so I know where to go if we get to that next step. And you say, well, why do they have us audition if the part's already cast? Well, because people fall out all the time. We want to have as many choices as possible. And me, since I'm not the most comfortable with decision making, I want to see as many options as I can. So, and it's weird as an actor to go, okay, I've seen enough of this. All right, I got a couple seconds of their slate. I don't need the whole story. Great. And there are certain moments I want to look for. And I really do dive in and pay attention to what they're doing. But, okay, so my guess, and I think I feel pretty confident about this, is that casting director said she only watches 4 seconds, probably watches more when she comes across a candidate that she thinks her bosses might like. When she comes across somebody that goes, oh, this seems like the kind of person they were looking for this role, I bet she watches more to confirm her initial instinct because she doesn't want to pass along somebody who turns out to not be right for it. So, again, they're laughing, they're having a good time. She goes, 4 seconds. I think that's probably not always true, and it's certainly not true of every casting director. I know I'm talking in what my aunt used to call mosaics. I'm sort of jumping from topic to topic because I have a lot to say about this. I do want to point out there is a sort of a nasty status differential that sometimes happens with casting people. I'm just being straight with you. Sometimes that power makes them look down their noses at actors and think of them like in a small way. And it's not very nice and it's not very gracious. Again, many casting directors love and respect actors and think they're amazing. I myself love actors. I love actors. I'm amazed by what we do. And so, but there are some who get a little, full of their position and tend to be dismissive or ridicule actors. And, fuck them for that. Fine. Um, what we have to do is be aware of ourselves, make sure that we're not buying into that status differential, make sure we're not feeding it. When you get all obsequious and say, "Oh, I hope I'm not bothering you," or would it be all right if I move this chair? And get all gushy and complimentary and apologize all over the place. We're feeding into this thing of like they're gods on Mount Olympus and we're little beggar people at the bottom. Instead of going, "Hey, we were around before they were, and we do the magic trick of creating human behavior, replicating human behavior, and we should hold ourselves with some dignity as a result." And I think when you hold yourself with dignity, maybe you get treated with a little bit more dignity. It's many things that I've addressed in the past. Be aware of, don't give us the terror slate like you've been kidnapped and you're begging somebody to send money. Don't be afraid to be yourself, and just be aware of that. If you're doing the casting director workshops, I hate them, but if you're doing them, don't be a little beggar person who's afraid to talk to somebody, and don't buy into that status differential. It's a whole tricky subject. We've talked about it before. Here's where I think I land on all this. I want you guys, fellow actors, to minimize your bitterness as much as possible. Do things that will make you less bitter and not make yourself crazy. Since we can't control this, we can't make them watch us. We need to reframe it in a way that relaxes us about it. We need to reframe it and go, okay, that's what it is. It's unfair. It's always been unfair. This is the nature of the business, and this is what's happening. And I don't want to keep grinding about it over and over again, because that's not going to change anything. The people who watch for 4 seconds, I bet they're not very good at their jobs. They'll probably move on. And maybe they're jaded because this is not the right job for them. And I do think, some people are better at casting than others. But what we can do is take joy in the playing of the part while you have it. I know that sounds pie in the sky, but I don't care, because, as I always say, most of the time you're not getting the fucking job. Most of the time. So I don't want that to be the only payoff that works for me. So what I do is I go, today I get to play this guy. A couple of weeks ago, I got to audition for a role of a guy who gives tours of famous mob hit sites. I did not get that part, but I got to play the part. You know what? I had a great time. I had a great time playing the role while I had it. We're not entitled to have our stuff watched. We can't control it. They got other work to do. So I think that's the best approach to this kind of thing, rather than bitching to each other about it and getting all worked up. I think going, okay, that's how that casting director is doing her job, and I have to hold my dignity, and I have to enjoy the process of playing the role, and you know what? They have to cast somebody. So, unless the part is written out, they have to cast somebody. And yes, I know. They have to cast somebody, and I believe that if you're in the ballpark of what they're looking for, they're going to look at more of your tape. And if not, don't blame them for moving on. They got a show to cast. Tell me your thoughts. I know I'm so ready. Some of you are going to disagree with me. I know some of you are going to be all mad that I said this. And there are commentators who have a different point of view. But that's mine. Tell me your thoughts. And Link and I will see you next week. Okay, bye everybody.